Welcome back to Westmoreland on the Gridiron. I am Sean Myers, now joined by the head coach at Greensburg, Salem, Dave Keefer, fresh off of win number 700 in school history for the Golden Lions. Coach, first off, congratulations. I know it was quite a celebration. We had it on video. All the players sprinting to change the sign to 700. What was that moment like for you and for the team?
Well, I think, I talked at the post game with a couple of different people, and I think the way the kids reacted, demonstrated, and really captured just their true emotion and their feelings about how they feel about our program, as well as how elated they were to be able to accomplish that 700th victory Friday night. So for me, it was a sense of gratification and a sense of, a little bit of a sense of a relief. But I'll be honest with you, one of the things I kind of wanted to step back because I wanted to make sure that I passed along my courtesies to Knock, because I thought they played a really good football game Friday night, and out of respect to them, I know our guys ran off the field, but I wanted to make sure I kind of passed along how much respect I had for the way they played. But it was definitely a fun evening, and definitely one that will never be forgotten by me.
Going back into the history books, it looked as though the first win in program history was maybe 1900, 1901. Now, obviously, no one's around that was part of that, but you go back 20, 30, 40, 50 years, I'm sure some of the Golden Lions sent their support one way or another. So what was that like, interacting with some of the players and coaches that preceded you and the current team?
Well, Greensburg's a unique place, and there's a lot of people that come back. There's a lot of people that still stay in contact with the program. There's a lot of the previous coaches as well as previous players that are either still in the community, or guys that come back to visit. And it's interesting. We'll meet on Sundays, and we'll be walking out at noon, and there's so often I'll walk out of the office and be walking up to lock up the gates and everything, and there's somebody in the parking lot, and they're looking at pictures and walking around with a child and showing them Greensburg. And so often it turns into being an alumnus that played football there, and you strike up a conversation about the pride that they still have in playing here, and the people that they played for and what Greensburg represented. So there was an outpouring of support, and by so many people within the community, as well as the alumni guys. And I think I walked in, I think I had something like 35 or 40 text messages from just a variety of different people that are associated with the program, just congratulating me. And I'll be honest with you, my response to them was, you're as much a part of that number as anybody, because they are, and that goes back to 1900 all the way to 1995 to 2005 up to 2020. So that's what's really unique about Greensburg Salem.
It was unique circumstances because while there were some fans at Offutt Field, it was for the most part without the fans that you would have in full force in a normal season. How have you and the players sort of adjusted to that now after 2 home games?
Well, you're never going to really fully adjust to it. I think one thing though, Sean, is once you get involved in the game and you get involved in the emotion of the game, you lose sight of the people in the crowd. I know as a player, you really never, not that you didn't know the crowd was there, but you just get so immersed in the situations of the game and the intensity of the game, and it's a factor, but it's one that you don't necessarily notice right away. It's not one that while you're playing that you stand and look at the crowd and you stand in awe. We're not playing in front of 60 or 70,000. They're there, and there's situations that they're that you hear that crowd. But I think our guys just really dial in to play the game, and I think most high school kids are so focused on executing the scheme the correct way, as well as playing with their max effort, that I think sometimes they overlook the fact that there is no crowd, or that there is a big crowd. So obviously big crowds play factors, small crowds. I don't think it necessarily changes the approach that the kids have. I think they're very grateful for the opportunity to get on the field. So as far as an adjustment, I don't think it's a huge adjustment, but probably the biggest thing is you get those situations, and I think you can appreciate calling the games where it's completely silent in the stadium, and it's almost eerie in the fact that you can hear a pin drop in the stadium. So that's probably the biggest times that I notice that there isn't a crowd. But for the most part, when the game's involved, you don't really recognize whether there is or is not a crowd.
Talking to Dave Keefer of Greensburg Salem here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron, fresh off of win number 700 in Greensburg Salem program history. And Coach, it was in dramatic fashion, a 1-point victory, 13-12 against the Knock Knights in a conference matchup. So the 700 is one thing, but getting a conference victory in this dramatic fashion, what does that mean for the rest of this season?
I talked to Hannah after the game, and that was one of the questions she asked me. And I thought, the significance of 700 was very important, but I thought the significance of winning our first conference game, being that we're a young team and still having a number of games ahead of us, I thought that was just as significant of getting that win. So, we didn't have our best practice Monday, and we kind of got into them a little bit and made them aware, like, hey, you've accomplished it. Are we content with just winning the 700th game and riding out the season? And kind of adjusted the attitudes, not in a negative way, just kind of, got their attention. So, we had an excellent practice on Tuesday, and, we're carrying it into Wednesday now. So the one thing that I think it is, you just have to refocus young men. And I think it's going to do a lot of good things, because I think they had an opportunity to win a game that we had an opportunity to win a little bit better than what we should have, but they won a close game in a dramatic fashion. So I think that definitely plays to their confidence level when they step onto the field, because we got so many young guys that haven't played varsity games. When you win tight games that are really close, or games that come down to the final buzzer, there's going to be mistakes, but they find ways to win. And I think that's one of the things that kids have to figure out, is they have to learn how to win. When you have an established group, they kind of know how to win, and they are in those situations. So when you have a young group, I think that's probably one of the most significant factors, is they found a way to win a close game. And for this group, it's the first win for them together as a group. So I think that's significant.
What was also significant was the defensive effort, particularly in the second half. Your squad forced 3 turnovers. I think the biggest factor universally would be Billy McChesney. He was just dominant at times. What did you see from him and that unit as a whole that allowed them to have that success?
Well, when you defend the triple option, and Knock did a really good job. They put 2 really good drives together in the first half. I know, talking to Coach before the game, that was one of the things Coach Mowry said, is that they had a lot of turnovers the previous week, and he knows, we watched the film a lot. I probably watched that film 20 times. So, they're very good at when they're handling the ball, but we knew we had to create collisions at the point of the mesh. And what happened was, I think our guys in the second half just had a better feel for how the mesh point was happening. I think they got an understanding of the speed. We talked prior to the game, Hannah and I, about trying to simulate that offense is really, really difficult. The other thing is, you have to be careful at practice trying to simulate it and having big collisions on young players. So I think the biggest change was they understood the speed of the mesh. They understood responsibility-wise, we got better on our mesh point and on the option, because we missed on a number of times in the first half where we broke off our responsibilities and they converted in situations that we had to get stopped. So, collectively as a whole, I think we didn't really make tremendous adjustments. We just kind of refocused them on their role and their responsibilities. And then on top of that, I think they turned it up a level, and Billy was one of the guys that really set the tone. The other guy's Joey McGuff. He kind of is the unsung hero on the other side of Billy. He made a lot of plays. He actually forced, I think, 2 of those 3 fumbles. So, that we had 2 really good D linemen that did a good job. Billy obviously made a couple of impacting big hits that really kind of elevates your defense's play and gives him the ability to kind of carry it on to the next series.
Hayden Teska struggled in his first game as a varsity starter. You said as much, but it looked like he was more comfortable, and he certainly produced some big plays. He and a few of the receivers made some big plays. Akeem White with the long touchdown, Donovan Waller with what was eventually the winning score. How did you evaluate the offense?
Better. I thought we grew. Disappointed in how we ran the football, but we know the teams are going to be able to take the run away at times. We really take pride in being able to run the football, but we have a lot of confidence in the guys we throw it to and the guy throwing it. And, I thought Hayden just is typical Hayden, and I talk a lot about him in terms of his poise and presence, in terms of understanding where he needs to go with the football in times of duress, where he keeps his eyes downfield, and he does a good job of finding open receivers. And we know that there's going to be growth. He made a bad throw there in the third quarter, I think it was, and kind of threw one up. And he's the kind of kid, when you sit and watch the film on Saturday, he's upset with himself and saying to himself, why the heck did I throw that football? And I think our young receivers are growing into that role. Unfortunately, we lost Cody Rubrick, who's a guy that's continually getting better. But the other guys did a nice job of stepping up, making plays. Keem, we talk about all the time, and we tell Keem all the time, you got the ability, you got the talent, now we just got to start putting it together. So we started seeing that click, and Donovan's a guy that hasn't played since his freshman year, never played a varsity snap, so he's starting to understand it. So as we talk, Sean, it's a growth process. I thought we saw growth, maybe not quite the growth we wanted to see from 1 to 2, but if we can grow from 2 to 3 like we did 1 to 2 and continue to do that throughout the course of the year, I think we'll continue to get better, and I think we'll be a tough team to beat.
Final thing for you, Coach. This week you head on the road. It's a team you're very familiar with, Indiana. That is a team that played in the same conference with you the last couple of years. What will be key to score a victory against the Little Indians?
Well, it's always big things that we talk about. We got to minimize the turnovers. I think we changed the course of the game, particularly that first series in the second half. We came out and we created a turnover, as you talked about. We created that turnover at the beginning of the second half. We got to do a good job of managing the ball. We did turn it over a couple of times. We got to minimize our turnovers. I talked to the guys. Indiana's struggling a little bit in some regards, so we want to jump on them early. We want to make them play from behind. They're a team that runs the triple option, so the good thing is it's just this week is repetition of reviewing, defending it, and be a little bit more aggressive earlier on. Don't play like we did in the second half. Put that together in the first half and second half this week, and I think we'll be in good shape. But I think we need to evaluate ourselves and see how we progress, like I said, from week 2 to 3. But, I'll be disappointed if we're not excited to come up and play. I know our guys are going to come excited to play football because we have an opportunity to win our second conference game, and that's important for us to get into the playoffs.
Coach, thank you so much for the time, and again, congratulations on the big victory.
Thank you very much, Sean. We appreciate you guys coming out and supporting us, even when Mark Katarski's calling the game. You guys do a great job. Very much appreciate you guys, and especially with the limited crowds, it's great to be able to get you guys in the stadium to call our games.
That is Dave Keefer, the head coach of Greensburg Salem, here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. We'll take a quick break and continue with Westmoreland on the Gridiron.